She arrived at 8:17 in the morning. The receptionist told her that Yoon Jae-Wook did not take clients without appointments. The woman with the navy coat and the folder pressed against her chest like it was the only solid thing in the room said that she understood. She sat in the chair nearest the window, and she waited. She did not look at her phone. She did not speak to the other people who came and went through the morning. She sat with the folder in her lap and her hands folded on top of it, and she waited with the specific stillness of someone who has learned, through long practice, to make themselves very small in rooms where they are not wanted. 3 hours passed. Yoon Jae-Wook came out of his office at 11:43 with his jacket over his arm, and the particular focused energy of someone moving from one thing directly to the next. He had a reputation in Seoul's legal community that was not about charisma. It was about precision, about the kind of preparation that left no surface unchecked, about winning not because he performed well in courtrooms, but because by the time he got to a courtroom, the outcome had already been determined by everything that came before it. He was almost to the elevator when something stopped him. Not a sound, not movement, something in the composition of the waiting room. A presence in a specific chair, a specific angle of the head, the way a person holds something they have been holding for a long time. He turned. He saw her profile first. The line of her jaw, the way she held the folder. Fingers white at the knuckles, not from fear exactly, but from the sustained effort of holding something together. The particular quality of stillness that wasn't calm. He stood there for a moment. She turned. Soo-Yeon looked at him across the waiting room of his office with the expression of someone who had rehearsed many versions of this moment, and had arrived at the real one and found it different from all of them. He looked at her face. He saw the maquillage, heavier than the morning called for, heavier than she would have chosen. He saw what it was covering without being able to see what it was covering. He saw the folder. He saw her hands. He understood the shape of what she had come to him with before she had said a word. She stood. "I don't have an appointment," she said. "I know," he said. "Your receptionist explained." I know what she explained. He looked at the elevator. Looked at her. "How long have you been waiting?" "Since 8:17. He was quiet for a moment. "Come," he said. He turned and walked back the way he had come. She followed him through the office, past the desks, past the filing rooms, past the paralegal station where Park Wi-soon looked up from her computer with the expression of someone who has seen many things walk through that office and was recalibrating something she had previously categorized. Wi-soon reached for her notepad. She wrote one thing. She looked at the door that had closed behind them. She looked at what she had written. She pulled the page off the pad, folded it once, placed it in the drawer on the left side of her desk. The drawer that held, in no particular order, 12 years of things she had noted and chosen not to say aloud. The conference room was smaller than his office and had no windows. She had asked for this in her preliminary call to the firm 3 days ago. A room without windows, a room where she could not be seen from outside. The receptionist had noted it as an unusual request and had passed it up the chain because unusual requests at a family law firm often meant something. And this one had meant that someone had prepared a conference room without windows before she arrived. She put the folder on the table. She opened it. She did not hand it to him. She spread it, methodically, in the order she had organized it over 6 months. Photographs, medical records, incident logs written in her own handwriting, dates and times and descriptions that were precise and effectless in the way of someone who learned early that emotion would not help her and accuracy might. He read without touching anything. He read for 11 minutes. When he finished, he looked at her. "Walk me through the incident on March 14th, he said. "Your words, not the report." She walked him through it. Then he asked about November 8th. Then about the pattern of financial control, the accounts, the access, the way certain things had been arranged so that leaving required money she could not reach. He asked 3 questions total. She answered all 3 with the same quality she had brought to the documents: precise, specific, no excess. He looked at the folder. 6 months to collect this. 6.5, she said. He looked at her. He monitors the devices, she said. I use the library, different branches, different days. I timed it around his travel schedule. He was quiet for a moment. "I'll take the case," he said. She looked at her hands on the table. "There are things you should know," she said. "About his resources? His legal team is handled." "I know who his legal team is," Jae-Wook said. "I've been on the other side of them twice. I know their approach." He began closing the documents in the order she had spread them. "I'll need copies of everything. Originals stay with you, somewhere he can't access. Do you have somewhere?" "Yes." "Where?" She told him. He nodded. He stood. She stood. He walked her to the door. In the hallway, she stopped. She had been practicing this part. The part where she confirmed she had done the right thing, where she tested whether it was real. "You didn't ask my name," she said. He continued toward the elevator without breaking stride. "I know your name," he said. She stopped walking. He pressed the elevator button. The doors opened. "Soo-Yeon, he said. "The copies. By end of week." She stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. She stood in the small metal box and pressed the button for the ground floor and breathed. One breath, deliberate. The kind of breath you take when you have been not breathing properly for long enough that a single, deliberate breath feels like something new. For the first time in 4 years, something had happened that she had made happen. The elevator reached the ground floor. She walked out into Seoul, into the noise and motion of a city that had continued, entirely indifferently, while her life was what it had been. And she walked to the subway station, and she did not look back. In the conference room upstairs, Gui-soon collected the copies Soo-Yeon had left at Jae-Wook's instruction and placed them in a secondary filing system she maintained separately from the main archive, in a location that clients' spouses could not access, even with a court order, which was a system she had developed 8 years ago and had used 16 times since. She was already pulling Oh Byung-chul's public legal history when Jae-Wook came back through. She found the first transferred case at 2:15 p.m. She stopped typing. She looked at Jae-Wook's closed door. She kept reading. The envelope arrived on a Wednesday. Not by mail. By hand. A representative from the firm of Young, Beck and Associates, the most expensive family law firm in Seoul, who arrived at 10 a.m. with the specific courtesy of someone who has been sent to deliver something unpleasant and has been instructed to do so pleasantly. Jae-Wook received him in the conference room. The representative explained that his client, he did not say Oh Byung-chul by name, which was its own kind of message, was interested in a resolution that avoided extended litigation. He placed the envelope on the table. He described its contents: a settlement figure, a non-disclosure provision, and a transition agreement that would allow the current case to be withdrawn on terms he described as generous. "For my client," Jae-Wook said. "For all parties," the representative said. "My client hasn't seen this." "The offer is extended to your firm directly," the representative said, in the tone of someone reading from a script they had practiced. "Given the circumstances." Jae-Wook looked at the envelope. He picked it up. He held it for a moment. The weight of it, the specific weight of money in paper form, the way that certain amounts made envelopes feel different from the outside. He set it on the table and pushed it back across. "Tell your client," Jae-Wook said, "that we'll see him in court." The representative picked up the envelope with the careful movements of someone recalibrating. At the door, he paused. "My client asked me to convey something," he said. "He says you and his wife know each other. From school." He looked at Jae-Wook with the expression of someone delivering a message they don't fully understand, but have been told is significant. He considers this relevant information. He left. Jae-Wook stood in the conference room for a moment. He walked to Gui-soon's station. "Show me what you found," he said. She had been waiting for this. She had the file organized in the order that would make the pattern clearest, not chronological but by type. The withdrawn cases, the transferred cases, the cases that had settled under non-disclosure terms that prevented anyone from discussing what had happened. 3 former cases, 2 jurisdictions. One attorney whose practice had relocated to Busan 18 months ago and who had stopped taking family law cases entirely. Jae-Wook read the file. He closed it. "Find the Busan attorney," he said. "Don't call him yet. Just find him." "Already have his number," Gui-soon said. "I've had it since yesterday." He looked at her. "I've been doing this for 12 years. she said. I recognize a pattern. He took the file. He went to his office. He called Soo-Yeon. She answered on the second ring. Not immediately, not delayed. 2 rings, the cadence of someone who had been waiting for contact and had decided how long to wait before answering. He knows you came to me, Jae-Wook said. A silence on the line. I know, she said. He always knows. He sent someone today, with an offer. An offer to you? Yes. Another silence. He's done that before, she said. With the last, she stopped. With someone else who tried to help me 3 years ago. The offer worked then. It didn't work today, Jae-Wook said. She was quiet for a moment, with a particular quality of quiet that meant she was deciding whether to believe something. Do you want to continue? He said. Yes, she said. No hesitation, no qualification. There are things about his legal history you need to know, Jae-Wook said. Things Gui-soon found. I need you to come in. When? Tomorrow morning. I'll be there, she said. She hung up. Jae-Wook sat with the phone in his hand for a moment longer than necessary. He put it down. He opened the file again. He read the name of the Busan attorney, a name he recognized from law school, a year below him. Someone who had been known for the kind of precision that Jae-Wook recognized as similar to his own. He understood what it had cost to leave. He kept reading. The preparation sessions were on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Jae-Wook had structured them this way because building a case of this kind required accumulation. Not a single dramatic deposition, but the slow assembly of a complete picture. Each session adding to what the previous one had established. Nothing assumed and nothing left to inference. Soo-Yeon was a precise witness to her own life. He had worked with many clients and had learned that the quality of a person's testimony had nothing to do with how much they had suffered. It had to do with how clearly they could see it, how accurately they could report what they had seen, how well they could resist the pressure to make it more or less than it was. Soo-Yeon reported. She did not embellish. She did not minimize. She said, this happened on this date, in this sequence, and the consequence was this. On the 3rd Thursday, she was describing an incident from 2 years ago. She was in the middle of a sentence. Specific, factual, the sentence going where it needed to go. And she stopped. Not because the sentence was too difficult. Because something in the sentence had opened a door to something that the sentence itself didn't contain. And she was standing at the door and looking through it. Jae-Wook waited. He did not prompt. He did not check his notes. He waited with the quality of someone who understood that the pause was part of the work, and that filling it would damage it. She closed the door. She finished the sentence. She looked at the table. I studied design, she said. Before, I had a studio. Small, I just started. I was going to... She stopped. It doesn't matter. It might matter, he said. For the financial control argument, when did that stop? She told him. He noted it. The session ran another hour. When it ended, she gathered her copies. She always checked twice, the habit of someone for whom information in the wrong hands had consequences. And she stood. Can I ask you something? She said. Not about the case. He looked up. Why didn't you ever look for me? She said. After school. He looked at the documents in front of him. He organized them, squared the edges, set them in the folder. Those were different times, he said. That's not an answer. No, he said. It's not. He did not say more. She did not push. There was something in the quality of his not saying that she recognized, not avoidance. Something more like the specific restraint of someone who has decided that what they have to say requires conditions that don't currently exist. She moved toward the door. At the threshold, she paused. In school, she said without turning around. You lent me a book. End of second year. I never gave it back. He was still at the table. I know, he said. You never asked for it. No. She considered this. Why not? He was quiet. She left. In the hallway, Gui-soon was at her station with a particular quality of occupation that suggested she had not been listening and was very aware of what she had not been listening to. She handed Soo-Yeon the copies she had made of that day's documents without looking up. Soo-Yeon took them. "He's good at his job," Gui-soon said to her computer screen. "He's also—" She stopped. "He's been doing this for 10 years, and he's good at his job." Soo-Yeon looked at the side of her face. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me," Gui-soon said. "Come on time next Thursday." Soo-Yeon went to the elevator. In the conference room, Jae-Wook remained at the table. He had a legal pad in front of him and a pen and nothing written on the page, which was unusual because he always wrote during sessions. He hadn't written anything today. He picked up the pen. He wrote one thing. He looked at it. He turned the page over. The first withdrawal came on a Monday. One of the neighbors, a woman who had been present on 2 of the documented incidents, who had given Gui-soon a voluntary statement 4 weeks ago with the specific relief of someone finally being asked a question they had wanted to answer, called the office at 9 a.m. She spoke to Gui-soon. She was apologetic in the way of someone who was also frightened, which was a particular combination that Gui-soon had encountered before. "Someone came to speak to my husband," the woman said. "About his business. About some things that they said some things. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't be involved." Gui-soon said she understood. She asked the woman if she was safe. The woman said yes. Gui-soon did not believe her entirely, but could not do anything with the disbelief, so she thanked her and hung up and opened the case file and noted the withdrawal. The second withdrawal came by email at 11:30. Different neighbor, similar language. The phrase "given what's at stake" appeared in the second sentence, which was not a phrase someone uses when they've decided independently to withdraw. It was a phrase someone uses when they've been told to withdraw and have been given the framing to explain it. Gui-soon put the email in the file. She was preparing to call Jae-Wook when the fax arrived. She had a fax machine because certain courts still required fax transmission, and she had never removed it. She watched the paper come through. She read it. It was a legal motion from Young, Beck, and Associates. Motion to disqualify counsel on grounds of conflict of interest. The grounds were specific. Counsel had maintained a personal relationship with the client prior to representation. A relationship that began in adolescence, and that, the motion argued, compromised counsel's professional objectivity and created an appearance of impropriety that prejudiced the opposing party's right to fair proceedings. Attached, a photograph. School yearbook page. 2 students. A girl with her hair pulled back, a boy beside her, the specific proximity of people who are not quite touching but are close enough that the not touching is its own information. The caption listed both names. The date made them 17. Gui-soon looked at the photograph for a long time. She took it to Jae-Wook. He read the motion. He looked at the photograph. He set both down. "The witnesses," Gui-soon said. "Both." She told him about the calls, about the email, about the phrase "given what's at stake." He was quiet for a moment. "Get me the Busan attorney's number," he said. She gave it to him. He called. The call lasted 7 minutes. Jae-Wook spoke for perhaps 2 of those minutes. He listened for 5. When he ended the call, his expression had not changed in any way that was visible. But Gui-soon had been watching him for 12 years, and she saw the thing that was not visible to anyone who hadn't been watching that long. "Call Soo-Yeon, he said. "Tell her to come in today if she can. If she can't today, tomorrow morning." "What do I tell her it's about?" "Tell her there's a development." He went to his office. He closed the door. He sat at his desk and he thought about a conversation that had lasted 7 minutes and what he had learned in 5 of those minutes. About the specific mechanics of what happened to people who tried to help Han Soo-Yeon. About how it had been done. About the careful infrastructure of intimidation that had been built around her and had been effective because it was never direct enough to be prosecuted and always direct enough to work. He thought about 6.5 months in library branches on different days. He thought about a woman sitting in a waiting room for 3 hours without moving. He opened his email. He began writing to 3 people simultaneously. A forensic accountant who specialized in financial control cases. A private investigator who had helped him document intimidation patterns in 2 previous cases. And a law school colleague from Busan who had just told him in 5 minutes. More than he had wanted to hear and less than he needed to know. He sent all 3 emails. He reached across his desk and opened the bottom drawer on the right side. Inside, among other things, was a book, old. The cover worn in the way of something that had been read several times and then handled without reading. Carried, moved, taken from one place to another over years without being opened. The title was not particularly significant. The significance was in the fact of it. In the fact that he had it, had kept it, had moved it to 4 different offices over a decade without setting it aside. He looked at it. He closed the drawer. He went back to work. That evening, reviewing the documents Soo-Yeon had brought in response to Gui-soon's call, Gui-soon found the notation in Soo-Yeon's own handwriting. Audio file, 1403, backed up externally. She looked at it. She looked at Soo-Yeon. Soo-Yeon looked back at her. "There's a recording," Gui-soon said. Soo-Yeon said nothing. "Soo-Yeon, see." Gui-soon's voice was not gentle. It was not her register. But it was direct in the specific way of someone who understood the difference between what was being protected and what it was costing. Whatever is on it, he needs to know. She came to his office the next morning. Not the conference room. His office, which she had been in once before, briefly, when he had asked her to review a document that required her signature. It was a room she had registered at the time, in the way she registered everything. Methodically, without appearing to. The books, the desk, the bottom right drawer that he had closed when she came in. Quickly, the way you close something you weren't thinking about someone seeing. She sat across from him, and she put the recording on the table. A small device, a voice recorder the size of a thumb, the kind that had been discontinued and replaced by phone applications, which was why she had bought it. Because phones could be checked, and a device bought with cash at a second-hand electronics shop was harder to trace. "March 14th, she said. 2 years ago. I left it in the study. He made a call. I wasn't planning to record anything. I'd left it there by accident, and then I realized it was running, and I didn't stop it." Jae-Wook looked at the recorder. What's on it? She had listened to it so many times, she no longer heard the room when she played it back. Only the voice, only the specific cadences of a man speaking with the ease of someone who believes himself unobserved. "The incident from March 14th, she said. "His call afterward. He spoke to someone, I don't know who, about how it would be handled. About managing the situation." She looked at the recorder. "And he mentioned someone, from 3 years ago. He called him..." She stopped. He used a specific phrase. He said he had resolved the interference. Jae-Wook was very still. "The attorney," he said. "I didn't understand what it meant until later. Until I started researching. Until I found the pattern." She looked at him. "The attorney who was in Busan. Whatever happened to him? Byung-chul was involved. He says it on the recording." Jae-Wook looked at the window. He was quiet for a moment. That was different from his other silences. Longer, with more weight. "Play it," he said. She played it. It was 4 minutes and 22 seconds. The room was completely still while it played. Gui-soon had come in at some point. She did that, appeared and stayed, and stood near the door with her arms crossed and her face doing nothing that was legible. When it ended, Jae-Wook was looking at the desk. He picked up his pen. He did not write anything. He put the pen down. "You've had this for 2 years, he said. "Yes." "Why didn't you use it sooner?" "Because I didn't know if it would be enough," she said. "And because I was afraid of what using it would cost." She said it with the specific honesty of someone who has accepted the truth of something uncomfortable and is no longer apologizing for it. "There was an attorney before you," she said. "I found someone 3 years ago. A younger attorney, not a specialist, but he was. He was willing. He believed me." She looked at the recorder. "He withdrew after 6 weeks. He said it was a conflict with another case. He didn't explain further." She looked at Jae-Wook. "I know now what happened. Or I know enough." He was looking at her. She held the look. "You can withdraw from the case," she said. "I want you to know that I understand if you do. He has done this before. He will try to do it again." Jae-Wook was quiet. He looked at the recorder on the table between them. He looked at the window. He looked back at her. "What did the book look like?" he said. "The one you never returned." She blinked. It was not the response she had been expecting. "Blue cover," she said after a moment. "Fiction. I don't remember the title. You found it somewhere and said you thought I'd like it." A pause. "I did like it." He looked at the desk. "I'm not withdrawing from the case," he said. "Jae-Wook, see. That recording goes to the prosecutor's office today," he said. "As supplementary material in the intimidation investigation we're opening alongside the civil case. The two witnesses who withdrew will be contacted by a colleague who specializes in witness protection. The motion for disqualification will be addressed in court on Thursday, and it will be denied because the relationship being cited is not a conflict of interest as defined by law, and I can document its nature precisely." He picked up the recorder. He looked at it. "None of this changes." She watched him. "Why?" she said. He stood. He moved to the window. He looked at Seoul, at the city below, going about its day. "Next question," he said. Gui Soon, at the door, made a sound that was not quite a word. She left. In the outer office, she sat at her desk, and she opened the drawer and she took out the folded piece of paper she had put there on the first day. The things she had written when Soo-Yeon walked through the door. And she read it. She folded it again. She put it back. She started typing. In the office behind her, Jae-Wook remained at the window for a moment. Then he went to his desk. He opened the bottom right drawer. He took out the book. He set it on the desk. He looked at it. He began to work. The hearing on the disqualification motion was on a Thursday morning. Judge Choi presided. She was 58, had been on the bench for 22 years, and had encountered Oh Byung-chul in her courtroom once before. A commercial dispute 7 years ago, which had settled before judgment in the way that certain cases settle when one party is very motivated to avoid a record. She had noted it at the time. She had filed the note somewhere she would remember. She remembered. The young Bayek attorney presented the disqualification argument with the polished efficiency of someone billing 800,000 won per hour. The relationship between counsel and client, he argued, was not merely historical, but formative. Adolescent attachments, while not romantic in a documentable sense, created emotional bonds that compromised the professional distance required by ethical standards. Counsel's objectivity could not be presumed. The appearance of impropriety was sufficient grounds regardless of actual impropriety. He used the word emotional 4 times. Jae-Wook waited until he finished. Then he presented his response. He documented the relationship. Precisely. 2 students at the same secondary school for 1 academic year before different university placements separated them. 14 interactions documented through yearbook records, class enrollment overlaps, and school event photographs. No contact for 13 years. Professional relationship initiated by client who sought counsel independently through the firm's standard intake process. He presented the legal definition of conflict of interest under the Korean Bar Association guidelines. He explained, in the specific language of someone who had prepared this argument, the way he prepared all arguments, completely, with no space for counter. Why the relationship as documented did not meet the definition. He did not use the word emotional once. Judge Choi read the submission. She asked 2 questions. Jae-Wook answered both. The young Baek attorney attempted a follow-up. Judge Choi held up one hand. She denied the motion. In 17 words that were notable for their economy. She observed that the motion appeared to have been filed not on legal grounds, but as a tactical instrument, and she noted this for the record. Byung-chul sat in the gallery. He had not moved during the proceeding. He had watched with the quality of attention of someone who was not particularly invested in this specific outcome, who had expected it to fail and had filed it anyway, because a motion filed and denied was still a message, and a message received was still control. Soo-Yeon did not look at him. She had been sitting beside Jae-Wook at the table, and she looked at Judge Choi, and she did not look at the gallery. After the ruling, in the corridor outside the courtroom, the prosecution attorneys who had been observing as part of the parallel intimidation case approached Jae-Wook. The recording had been submitted. The investigation was moving. 3 things Byung-chul had believed were private were no longer private. And the 4th The specific conversation from March 14th was now in the hands of people whose job was to determine what it meant legally. Byung-chul walked past Soo-Yeon in the corridor. He did not touch her. He did not stop. He walked past with the particular deliberateness of someone doing something that would not be documentable and would be felt. He looked at her. She looked straight ahead. Jae-Wook was 3 steps behind. He closed the gap to 1. He did not say anything. He did not need to. He stood there, 1 step behind her. Close enough that the physics of the corridor required Byung-chul to account for his presence. And he stayed there until Byung-chul rounded the corner and was gone. They stood in the corridor. "Thank you," she said. "I was going the same direction," he said. Soon, who had been at the far end of the corridor with the case files and had seen all of it, made the sound she made when she had observed something she had already known was coming and was choosing not to comment on. She handed Jae-Wook the files. She patted Soo-Yeon's arm once, briefly, with the specific efficiency of someone expressing something they would not otherwise express. She walked toward the exit. The photographs appeared on a Friday afternoon, not in a newspaper, in the kind of online publication that operated in the space between journalism and inference, that had enough readership to circulate and enough distance from accountability to print what it called sources suggest. The photographs were from the school yearbook. The same image that had been submitted with the disqualification motion, now expanded with context that the motion had not provided. The headline used the phrase, "hidden connection." The body of the piece suggested that the attorney representing Mrs. O in the high-profile divorce case had a long-standing personal relationship with his client that predated her marriage, and that had not been disclosed. The word disclosed appearing 4 times, in 4 different constructions that were each technically accurate and collectively misleading. By Monday morning, 2 of Jae-Wook's existing clients had called with concerns. By Tuesday, 1 had ended their retainer. By Wednesday, the 2nd had suspended engagement pending clarification. Soon tracked it all in a spreadsheet she had created specifically for this purpose, with columns for client name, date of contact, stated concern, and her own assessment of whether the concern was genuine or prompted. The prompted column had 2 entries. The genuine column had 2 different entries. She presented the spreadsheet to Jae-Wook on Wednesday afternoon without comment. He read it. He looked at the columns. He looked at the window. "How is the filing?" he said. "Ready," she said. "Has been since Monday." He nodded. He called the press office. The press conference was not held at the firm. It was held at the courthouse. A deliberate choice, the kind of choice that communicated something about where the conversation was happening and whose rules applied there. Jae-Wook spoke for 19 minutes. He presented the case history, the 3 previous cases in Byung-chul's record, the withdrawn witnesses, the intimidated counsel, the settlement terms that had prevented anyone from discussing what had happened. He presented the recording, playing the relevant section in full, with a transcript available to every journalist present. He identified the phrase that referred to the Busan attorney. He stated, with the specific precision of someone who had documented everything and was prepared to defend every syllable, what the phrase meant and what evidence supported that interpretation. He identified Byung-chul as the source of the photographs published online. He documented the chain, the investigator hired, the publication contacted, the timing relative to the failed disqualification motion. He presented the disqualification motion itself as part of the pattern. Not an isolated legal argument, but one instrument in a coordinated campaign of intimidation and obstruction that had been running for 3 years, and that the current criminal investigation was examining in full. He did not raise his voice. He did not use a single word that was not earning its place in the sentence. When he finished, he took questions. He answered the ones that were relevant. He declined the ones that weren't, briefly and without apology. Byung-chul's response came through Yoon, Beck, and Associates, a written statement that was carefully worded and came 45 minutes after the press conference ended, which was 45 minutes too late. The criminal indictment for obstruction of justice came the following Tuesday. Not the divorce judgment. That was still pending, still being assembled. But the obstruction case moved faster because its evidence was cleaner. A recording, a documented pattern, a witness from Busan who had finally, with the protection of the parallel investigation, agreed to provide a statement. Byung-chul's legal team applied for continuances. Judge Choi denied 2 of them. On a Thursday evening, 3 weeks after the press conference, Jae-Wook and Soo-Yeon were the last 2 people in the office. Gae soon had gone home after collecting her notepad and her coat, with the efficiency of a woman who had put in the hours she had agreed to put in, and not one more. The filing was complete. The next hearing was scheduled. The case was in the phase that required waiting rather than action, which was the phase that Jae-Wook found most difficult because there was no work to do, and work was the thing he used to manage most things. Soo-Yeon was reviewing her copies one final time. She would return them to the secure location before going home, as she always did. He came out of his office. She looked up. "The clients who left," she said. "I'm sorry." "They'll come back," he said. "Or they won't. It doesn't change the case." She looked at her documents. "It changes your practice." "My practice has survived things before." He looked at her. "The recordings, the filing, everything we have, it's solid." She looked at him. "There's something you want to say," she said. "Not about the case." He was quiet. "You've been careful," she said. "Since the beginning. You don't say things that aren't about the case, and you don't." She stopped. "I've noticed." He looked at the window, at the city in its evening mode. Slower, the light different from the morning. "There are things that couldn't be said while the case was active," he said. "Professional reasons. The case is still active. The acute phase is over," he said. "The rest is process." He looked at her. "There's something I need to tell you. Something that isn't about the law." She set her documents down. She looked at him. "I know," she said. He looked at her. "I do too," she said. "I've known for a while. I was waiting for you to be ready." In the outer office, the light was off. Gui-soon's desk was empty. On the surface of the desk, beside the keyboard, was the notepad, the old one, the one she had carried for 12 years, the one she had finally retired the previous week when she had filled the last page. She had left it there. On the last page, in her handwriting, were 3 words. The same 3 words she had written on the first day, when Soo-Yeon walked through the door and Jae-Wook had been crossing toward the elevator and had stopped. He told her the way the case had taught him to say difficult things, directly, without scaffolding, trusting the facts to carry the weight they were carrying. He told her about the last year of school, about the specific circumstance that had made leaving necessary. His family, a situation that had nothing to do with her and everything to do with the fact that, at 17, he had no resources to stay and no language to explain leaving. He told her he had understood, only after, what he had left. He told her that understanding something after is the specific kind of knowledge that is most expensive because it cannot be applied retroactively. He told her about the book. He had kept it because he had taken it with him when he left. Not deliberately, it had been in his bag, and when he unpacked in the new place, he had found it, and had not been able to put it with the other books he owned because it was different from them. It was different because of the margin note on page 47. She had written something in pencil, small, in the margin, the kind of note you write when you think you're writing for yourself. He had read it many times. He had never told anyone what it said. He said what it said now. She looked at the window. She did not say anything for a moment. Then she said what she had. She said that she had understood, when he left, that it was not about her. She had been 17, and she had understood it in the imprecise way of someone who understands a thing intellectually before understanding it in the body. She said that she had looked for him, once, 2 years after, had found the city he had moved to, had not gone further than that. She said she had not gone further because she had been afraid that what she remembered was not what was real. That the specific quality she had recognized in him, the patience, the precise attention, the specific way he listened that made you feel that what you were saying was landing somewhere rather than dissipating. She had been afraid that was a thing she had constructed around a real person rather than a thing that was actually there. She said she now knew it was actually there. She said she had known it since the 3rd Tuesday session when he had waited, without moving, while she stood at a door inside herself that she needed to stand at alone for a moment. She said, No one had ever done that before. She said, "It sounds like a small thing." She said, "It is not a small thing." He was looking at her. He went to his desk. He opened the bottom right drawer. He put the book on the table between them. It landed with the soft weight of something that had been carried for 13 years. She looked at it. She looked at him. 13 years late, he said. She reached out. She touched the cover. She opened it to page 47. Her own handwriting, in pencil in the margin, smaller than she remembered, still legible. She read it. She closed the book. She looked at him. "I meant it," she said. "When I wrote it." He looked at her. "I know," he said. "I've always known." Outside, Seoul was doing what it did. Continuing, enormous, indifferent, lit against the dark. Inside, two people were in the same room in the way they had not been in the same room for 13 years, which was without the absence of something that had been missing for a long time. The divorce was finalized on a Wednesday in April. Not the end of the legal process. The criminal case was ongoing. The obstruction charges were proceeding through their own timeline. The Busan attorney had submitted a full statement that was being reviewed as part of a broader investigation into 3 cases across 2 jurisdictions. But the divorce was finalized, which was the thing that had mattered most. Soo-Yeon received the notification by email. She was in her studio. A rented space, small. The kind of space that was not yet what it was going to be, but was already, clearly, something. She had returned to design 6 months ago, beginning with small commissions, rebuilding the way you rebuild anything that has been interrupted. Slowly, specifically, one thing at a time. She read the email. She closed it. She went back to work. That evening, Jae-Wook came to the studio. He did this, appeared, as he had always appeared without excessive announcement. She had learned that this was not thoughtlessness, but its opposite. He came when he said he would come, and he was present when he was present. He looked at what she was working on. She explained it to him, the commission, the problem she was solving, the specific structural decision she had been thinking about for 2 days. He listened the way he listened, which was with the quality of attention that made the person speaking feel that what they were saying was landing somewhere. He had brought food. They ate. Gui-soon had retired the old notepad. She had bought a new one, smaller, green, already half filled with the particular kind of notes that Gui-soon kept, which were observations and phone numbers and things she noticed that other people hadn't noticed yet. She had written one thing on the first page that she had then covered with a sticky note because it was personal and she was professional. The book was on the shelf in the studio. The margin note on page 47 was still there. On a Sunday in May, Soo-Yeon took Jae-Wook to the street where the school had been. She had needed to see it. She didn't explain why. She didn't need to. He understood the category of need without requiring the explanation. The school was gone. In its place was a park, recent, the trees still young, the paths clean and underused. They stood at the edge of it. "They took it all down," she said. He looked at the park where the school had been. "Not everything," he said. She looked at him. He was looking at her. The trees were small, but they were growing. They stayed for a while.